Have y'all noticed the difference between Corey and Cement? How one man really, really, really wants to marry his woman, even though they're already married, and how the other one, not so much. Let's talk about it. Hi, YouTube. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to another review of 90 Day Fiancé the Other Way, Season 3, Episode 12, Cold Feet. So let's start off with Evelyn and Corey. Let's go ahead and get them out of the way. So they're having some type of disagreement or issue with how the second wedding is going to be conducted. I think Evelyn said that she did not want to get married. She didn't want to have a religious ceremony, because if she had a religious ceremony, then that means that there would be no divorce. So she wants to have a non-religious ceremony so that if things go south, she can still seek a divorce. Corey is getting on her case about that. Like, why do you assume that we're going to be getting a divorce? It's already like you don't have any faith in this relationship and you're already looking for an exit plan. And Evelyn tries to reassure him that, I'm not really looking for an exit plan, but just in case, I just want to be able to, transition out of this marriage smoothly. So that's what they're having their whole issue on, of whether or not to have like a religious ceremony or not to have a religious ceremony. Corey goes ahead and he consents to, okay, we don't have to have a religious ceremony. He does want to have an actual wedding with an actual reception and all of that, because their first wedding, he doesn't really consider that a wedding because they did it at the courthouse. They talk about who is going to be the officiant for their ceremony. Evelyn suggests her sister because she's close to her sister, so on and so forth, and so she wants her sister to be the one to marry them. Corey does not like that idea at all because neither one of her sisters like him, and neither one of her sisters support this relationship. So why would you have someone who doesn't even want us to be together to perform our real wedding ceremony? So they go back and forth on that. Evelyn tells them, look, I've given in to you about being engaged. I never wanted to be engaged, but I went ahead and, accepted your proposal and we were engaged. I never wanted to be married, but I gave in to marrying you. So can you just let me have this one thing and let my sister be the officiant? Corey goes ahead and relents because he's like, you know what? She's right. She's done so much for me. She sacrificed so much for me. I'll go ahead and, let the sister be the officiant, but I'm really worried on exactly how she's going to conduct this. And she just might make a huge mockery of the whole ceremony. So that's Corey and Evelyn. Moving on to Victor and Ellie. So Victor and Ellie are where are they? They're in Providencia. Victor takes Ellie to the place where him and his family were when the hurricane hit the island. And I'm not sure whose house they were in. I'm pretty sure it was maybe his mother's house. So him, his sister, his mother, I guess other family, I'm not sure. They were huddled when the hurricane hit the island. They were huddled in a kitchen cabinet beneath the sink. It was him, his sister, his mother, their dog, and maybe his niece or nephew. I'm not sure. But and he showed the cabinet that they were huddled in, and it was a very small, obviously it's just a cabinet. It's not made for, 3 or 4 humans to be in, but they were actually huddled in this cabinet beneath the kitchen sink. Now it was kind of spacious, it's a little bit more spacious than your average cabinet, but it was small. And I can't imagine 3 adults or however many adults in that little space with a dog and a child, I think, for 6 hours waiting for this hurricane to pass through, not even knowing if you're going to survive. So it must have been beyond a nightmare, beyond hell, to be in this little tight space with this Category 5 hurricane raging through your island. I'm just like, it's a miracle that these people survived. It is an absolute miracle. So when Ellie saw that, she kind of put things in perspective for her to see exactly what Victor went through. And she understands that she has to be, a little bit gentler with him and not be so harsh with him whenever they, have their arguments. So then they talk about later on, whatever day it is, now it's nighttime. They're getting ready for bed. They have a tent set up because there's no bed. There's nothing in this house that they're in. And they're sitting there talking, and everything starts off really, really well. they're talking about their future. He's asking about having children. She says she doesn't have an issue with having children, but she understands that because of her age, it may not be very realistic that they would have kids. And so she's okay with that. So she kind of wants him to understand that, look, I don't have an issue having children, but let's not, go crazy about that because of my age, statistically or whatever, scientifically, my chances of having a baby is a whole lot less. And then she's like, if we even have a baby, how are we gonna take care of this child, when this island is still trying to recover from this hurricane? So they talk about that. And then she talks about how expensive babies are. And he was like, you know what, all you think about is just money, 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 money. Of course, babies are expensive. Of course, it takes a lot. It costs a lot to take care of a child. But, all you think about and all you want to talk about is money. And she's like, well, yeah, because we have to talk about money. She's like, you don't have a problem talking about money when you're asking me for it. When I was living in America and you're asking me for money, you had no problem talking about money. And then they talk about the business because the whole purpose of her even moving to Providencia was to start, of course, to live with Victor, marry Victor, and also to start a business there as a source of income. They were going to have a beach bar. And now, because of the hurricane, there's no tourists. And in islands, these Caribbean islands, a lot of them depend on tourism to help the economy. A lot of people survive off of tourism dollars. So she's like, well, now that there's no tourists and there's no tourism here, what are we going to do about money? And once again, he's like, all you want to think about is money, 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 money. And she says, the whole purpose of me coming here and leaving my whole life behind in America was to start this business with you, this beach bar. And because of the hurricane, things have flipped on us. And so we need to consider, what are we going to do? And he's like, to me, Victor kind of reminds me of like a Rastafarian, very simple, easy living, no stress, no worries. Everything's going to work out kind of thing. And she's, like a typical American, where it's like we constantly worry about bills and money and making money and spending money and the bottom line and surviving financially. This is a capitalistic society, so we're very driven by the almighty dollar. So he gets upset with her always talking about money. She gets upset with him being so flippant about money and not really taking anything seriously financially. And they argue, they go back and forth about that. And he doesn't like the fact that she threw it in his face, that I was giving you money. You didn't have an issue with money when you were asking me for it and I was giving it to you. And then he was like, well, it's not like you gave me that much. And she was like, do you want to look at the books? Do you want to look at my bank account? Exactly how much I was giving to you. And so he gets upset. He walks away. And in his confessional, he says that he doesn't like it when she throws it in his face that she was taking care of him, that she was, sending all this money to him. And he tells her also that I was surviving way before I met you. So don't act like, you're, some type of savior, that you came and rescued me from, being destitute and starving to death. I was doing just fine before I met you, honey. I'm gonna be just fine after you. So don't give yourself too much credit. Like, I could not have survived without you. So when I saw that scene, I'm thinking to myself, okay, when you have these type of issues where, you have the American and she is the foreigner, but you have someone from America and you have someone who's not from America. And the one from America is the one that's, giving a lot of money to the one that's not from America. Like the power struggle there. The bottom line is he was accepting money from her. She was giving him money. He was using the money, I'm assuming, to survive. If he wasn't like using it just to party, he was using it for his everyday expenses and to survive and to get the things that he needed. So, she was taking care of you. That's the bottom line. And if you don't like how that sounds, then you should never have accepted money from her. But so, yeah, they're having their whole issues with money. And, I don't know how that's going to go with them. Moving on to Kenny and Armando. So the wedding day is getting, so much closer. The families have arrived. First, Armando's family shows up, and his dad is there, of course. His mom, his sister, a couple of other family members. They show up. When they all showed up, I like it when they greet each other, like Armando and Kenny and their family members. I like it when they all greet each other. The father greeted everybody. He hugged his son. He hugged Kenny. There was lots of hugs going around. And when they started like unpacking, I guess Armando thought he was going to have time to talk to his dad, but his dad ended up going outside. He said he needed some fresh air. So then he talks to his mom and his sister, and they tell him that, he was asking them like, so how is dad doing? And they said, he's dealing with it. And Armando asked them, so what was the turning point for him to make him want to come? And they said, well, it was the message that you sent him, because he sent him this text message about how much he needed his dad's support and that he would have been there for his dad for anything that his dad needed him for. So why can't his dad be there for him? So that message was the turning point for the father to make him want to come. Then the rest of Kenny's children come, because he's got the triplet girls and he has his older son. So all of his children are there. Cassie, I think her name is Cassie, she's pregnant. I think that's the one that visited before. So she comes there with her significant other. And his other daughter comes with... No, his son comes with his girlfriend or his wife, and then the other daughter... Yeah, so all of them are there. Cooper's mom, the pregnant one, and and the third triplet. So they're all there, and all the families meet. Kenny's side, Armando's side, they all meet, and it's a beautiful meetings and, wonderful greetings. And then they all have dinner. They all have dinner together. So that first night, everything went well. So then later on, or the next day or something, I don't know when, Kenny is talking with his children. He wants to have a sit down with all of his kids. So he immediately starts crying. He's so emotional. So he starts crying, and, he talks about how much his children mean to him. And he talks about how he had always wanted to be a parent ever since, he was really young. He wanted to have children. But being gay, at some point in his life, he was like, well, how am I going to work this? How am I going to figure this out to have children? And he thought about, well, do I have to get married to a woman just to have children? And then after I have my kids, we end up going our separate ways or what? So he was like, you know what? I'm going to figure it out. If I want children, I'm going to have children, which he did. So he had the boy. And he said, he told his son that when I had you, he said that having him, his son's name is Bryson, having Bryson made all of his dreams come true. And I was just like, oh my God, that is so, 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 so sweet. For a parent to tell their child that, what, this is what you meant to me. This is, how much, my life was improved by having you. It was just so beautiful. And, he's a really good dad. Kenny is a wonderful father. So then he tells his kids that he's thinking about expanding his family, and him and Armando have talked about possibly adopting a child or even possibly going through in vitro to have a baby. And I really thought, and Kenny thought too, that his kids were going to accept that and be okay with that, because his kids seem to be very, very supportive in whatever their father wants to do. Yeah, they may have issues with him moving to a whole nother country and being so far away from them, but for the most part, his kids seem to be very supportive. But on this one, they're like, Dad, pump your brakes. What are you talking about? And he says, yeah, we've been thinking about, having a child. And the triplets are like, they start crying. They don't like this at all. They don't like it at all. And they start talking about like, okay, how easy is that going to be? Because this country gave you such a hard time even getting married. So how easy is it going to be for a gay couple to even adopt a child or go through in vitro or whatever? And one of them says something like, in her confessional, she talks about how she had spent so much time when her dad was living in Florida. She was reminiscing about how much time that she spent with her dad and how they would have coffee together at the cafe and spend so much time together. And now he's moved to Mexico. And now if he has a child, that's going to take him away from them even more. So his children's concerns, and they told him this, they said, well, if you have another kid, what about us? What about your grandson Cooper? You're not going to have any time for us. And I was like, what? I mean, y'all are grown. Y'all are grown children. Y'all don't need your dad there to take care of you. What are you talking about? What about us? So Kenny loves his children so much that if he had another child, it would not take anything away from the four that he already has. You know what I mean? I don't think he's going to call them less or forget about them or FaceTime them less if he has another child with Armando. So Kenny said in his confessional he was really surprised that his children were not that accepting of it. And his children were like, yeah, you don't know. I don't think you need to do this, Dad. And he said, well, I'm married a very young man, and maybe his family is not complete. Because the daughter asked him, well, why don't you just adopt Hannah? You have Hannah. And he said, well, Armando's 32 years old, so maybe his family is not complete. Maybe his vision of what a family is different from my vision. And I have to take that into consideration, that he may want to expand his family. So he said he was really disappointed in his kid's reaction. And I was too. I was just like, what do you mean this is going to take him away from you? He's already living in another country. He's going to be married. So that right there is going to consume a lot of his time. But he's not going to forget about y'all. And he's an adult. He's a grown man. And if he wants to have children with his husband, that's his business. And y'all need to just be there and support him. Moving on to Ariela and Benny. So we are in Mombasa, Kenya, and Janice, Ariela's mom, she decides to have a little sit down, a one-on-one with Benny. So they go out, just the two of them, and they brought the interpreter with them. And the mother, Janice, was just like, look, this is what's been going on. When she was with us in America, she was getting all these messages from your family members. All these pictures were being sent to her of you just turning her home into a whorehouse. So what's up with that? And Benny said, look, it's not like that. These people are lying. Whoever told you that I was seeing other girls or that I was messing around with other girls, it's not true. They're lying. The truth of the matter is, the house, I was using it as a studio. So a lot of people will come over because, studios, I guess, attract a lot of people. So we were using it as a music studio, and that's why a lot of people were there, because we were producing music. And Janice asks Benny straight up, were you cheating on my daughter? And he said, no, I was not cheating on her. There was no other woman in my life. And if there was another woman in my life, I wouldn't be here in Kenya with her. So no, I'm not cheating on her. I want to be with her. I love her. And then the mother says to Benny, well, look, let me give you some advice. If you plan on doing something, please, for the love of God, let Ari know what you want to do, because what really bothered her is that you would plan these parties or events or whatever he was doing, and she had to hear it from other people. You never communicated anything with her. She had to hear it secondhand. So if you plan to do anything, you have to let her know what you're planning on doing. And I thought to myself, well, isn't that ironic? Because when Ari planned to leave Ethiopia and take his child to America for surgery, she communicated none of that to him. She didn't tell him until it was like a couple of days before she was supposed to leave. Oh, by the way, we're going back to America for his surgery. We're not going to get it done here. And he didn't know this until like the very last minute. So, the communication is a two-way street, Ari. If you want him to tell you everything he's about to do, you need to tell him exactly what you're about to do, and don't wait until the very last minute to tell him. It's a two-way street, sweetheart. So the mother says that she believes Benny, that he was not cheating on Ariela, that he was just a young guy having a good time with his friends, and it was nothing more than that. Yeah, maybe he shouldn't have brought all those people to her home, but it was nothing more than, some wild parties, and that was it. So they come back home, and Ariela wants to know what they talked about, and they catch her up on their conversation, and the mom says, look, I believe him. He wasn't fooling around with anybody. The two of you need to work this out. So that's what they plan on doing. I saw the preview for the next episode where she's asking him, or she's telling him that she wants to go back to America with him. She wants to start a life in America with him. And I knew this was coming. I knew this was coming because the way that her family was drilling into her ear when she was in New Jersey about, why do you want to go live over there? And if you care about your baby, you'll come back over here to America. So, yeah, I had a feeling that this was just, the whole Mombasa thing was nothing to do with Mombasa. Oh, that's where we first met, and that's why I want to go live there. It had nothing to do with that. It was all about slowly making her plan to come back to America. She's done with Ethiopia. She's done with Africa. She wants to come back to the United States, and she will make it happen because she's just that forceful. Okay, moving on to the creme de la creme. Let me get into Sumit's. Let me get into him real quick. Let me make sure that I talked about everybody else. Jenny and Submit. Okay, so Jenny's really excited because we're moving forward with the wedding, okay? They go see the astrologer because, Submit puts a lot of faith in the astrologer, or so he makes it seem like he's putting a lot of faith in the astrologer. They go see the astrologer to figure out the wedding date. I'm pretty sure because the first time the astrologer told him that getting married was not a good idea. The stars were not aligned for them to get married. So I'm thinking Submit had his fingers crossed and he was hoping and praying that the astrologer was going to give the same negative news. They go to the astrologer. The astrologer looks up everything they got, whatever he needs to look up on his laptop. He's looking at the stars and looking at the moon and the planets and see everything is aligned. And I mean, you can literally see like Submit's heart pounding out of his chest, just anticipating what is he going to say about us getting married. Well, lo and behold, the astrologer says the stars are aligned. It's a go. Everything looks wonderful. You can get married. In fact, you can get married in no earlier than 9 days, or in 9 days or something. So not only can they get married, but they can get married in about a week. And then the astrologer tells them, but don't get married in a temple. Don't have like a ceremony. Go do this at the courthouse. Because if you get married in some type of a traditional Indian wedding, it's not going to be good for your marriage. So you need to go get married. And probably because there's a lot of bad juju might be around that, since a lot of people are not happy with them being married. So he tells them, go get married like in a courthouse. So it's good to go. They go outside and they're talking. And Submit was just like shocked that the astrologer told them that it was a go and that they can get married in no more or no less than 9 days. So Jenny says, hey, I want to get married in 10 days. Let's get married on the 10th day. And Submit's like, well, okay, if it's possible, okay, he's already starting with the games. So they go outside and they're talking and he's like hyperventilating and he's like looking really anxious and, he's trying to figure out how to get out of this, right? So he's like, Jenny, the whole thing about marriage is very scary for me because of what I went through with my ex-wife and her family. And so I just don't know if I can do this. And so Jenny, she's listening, she's paying attention, she's being very attentive. And she's like, oh, baby, it's okay, baby. So when she was calling him baby, I was like, because let me tell you something. Submit and Jenny, to me, have no chemistry. None whatsoever. I don't get it. They hardly have any kind of physical contact with each other. There's just no chemistry at all. So I'm trying to and can nobody tell me that when Submit was out there on the internet, when he was doing his call center job and he was using the company's computers to look for women, there's no way that anybody can tell me that when he saw Jenny, he was like, oh my God, this is the woman for me. Not to say that Jenny's not attractive, not to say that, no man would want her. I think she is an attractive older woman. I think her blue eyes are really, really pretty. Not to say any of that, but the way that I see Submit and the way that I see Jenny, you're not going to make me believe that Jenny saw her, or that Submit saw her, and he was like, oh my God, this is the most beautiful woman in the world, and I have to have her. There is no chemistry at all between them. So he's telling her, because of my bad experience, I don't know if I can do this again. And when she was calling him baby, it kind of threw me off because they're not affectionate with each other. So she's trying to say, look, I understand what you're feeling. It's very normal to feel this way before getting married, to kind of have cold feet. It's understandable, but we'll get through this. It's okay. We'll get through this because I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to do any of the things that your wife did to you, your ex-wife did to you. We're going to make this work. And that's not what he wants to hear. So then what happened after that? Okay, so he talks about his whole issues with, getting married. I mean, this man was like literally shivering and shaking. And he was telling her that, divorce really changed me. And it's like he was almost starting to cry. And I don't think he was crying because he was thinking about how horrible his divorce was. I think he was crying because he's realizing it's time to pay the piper. Okay, you've been promising this woman marriage and using your parents as an excuse to not marry her. Now that that's been removed, now you need to pay the piper. You need to face the music, Submit, and that's what's getting him all nervous and shaky and anxious because it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna really have to marry this woman. So then the next scene is them going to see the lawyer. So they go to see the lawyer, and Jenny has her documents with her, and I don't know why Submit thought that they were just going to go there for information when they were going there, to get the process started. So they go see the lawyer, and the lawyer says to them, because Jenny being a foreigner, you can't just get married normally. You have to go through a certain process, and it's going to be under this thing called the Special Marriage Act because she's not a citizen of India. So the lawyer's like, okay, look, you have to go through this process. It's going to take a while. It's going to take about 30 days, but it can get done. So Jenny's like really excited, and Submit, he's like, that's not what he wanted to hear. So the lawyer pulls out the documents. He's like, okay, here's the application. This is the application for marriage. Go ahead and fill this out. Jenny, she looked like a straight A student about to ace a chemistry test. I mean, she was just like filling out her application. And your boy Submit, he looked like someone who didn't study and trying to figure out how he's going to get out of this test, the way he was filling out his application. So after everything was said and done, they're excited. And the attorney said, okay, this is it. This is beginning the process. This is the process has started. The process has commenced of y'all getting married. Later on, Submit goes to talk to his friend. He goes to I don't know what they call it, like a computer cafe or something like that, where people can use computers in his neighborhood or wherever he's at. So he's by himself. It's at night. He goes into those computer cafes, internet cafes, I think they're called. He talks to his friend on FaceTime, and his friend is in Dubai. And he's telling his friend, about what's been going on with Jenny and the whole marriage process. And his friend is like, oh, congratulations. And Submit tells him, my parents, they're not going to give us a hard time anymore. They've given their consent of us being together. They're not going to try to fight it or break us up. And their friend was like genuinely shocked about that. He was like, oh my God, are you serious? Your parents are not even going to try to fight it? The friend was really shocked about that. And so he's like, yeah, my parents are telling us it's okay. And then he starts telling his friend about how he has all these reservations about marriage because of his ex-wife. And, in his confessional, Submit says that his ex-wife was very domineering. He says, this is what I thought was funny. He said, I heard that my wife, and he's referring to his ex-wife, he says, I heard that my wife was a really sweet and kind woman. But that wasn't my experience. He said that as soon as they got married, she tried to change him, tried to change everything about him. And he didn't like that. And she was very controlling. And he didn't like that. And so he's having all these flashbacks and, all of these memories, these horrible, horrible memories of what marriage was like with his ex-wife. And his friend is trying to tell him, look, Jenny is not her. You don't have to worry about that. Jenny's completely different. You can't use that as an excuse to not get married. That's a completely different situation. Number one, that was an arranged marriage. So that's right there, that this is different because you and Jenny want to be together. And so he keeps on talking about his doubts and how he's scared and he's really not sure. And their friend is like, you know what? I'm just really confused by you, Submit, because, you talk about how wonderful Jenny is, but then you talk about how you're not ready to get married to her. And this has been going on for years. So, what's tea? What are you saying? And Submit says, I really like how things are with Jenny. I really, 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 really like how things are with Jenny right now. I'm so happy with Jenny right now. And so to me, what I'm hearing when he says that, he's saying, why get married? We're doing just fine without being married. This is great. Living together, not worrying about marriage and getting married. He prefers it like that, so he can come and go as he pleases. And if he doesn't want to be with her anymore, he can go about his business. So he doesn't want to get married. That's what I'm hearing. He's like, oh, why would we get married if we're so happy now the way we are? And so he tells his friend could tell that maybe he's holding some information back, and he's like, oh, so what are you really trying to say, Submit? And he tells his friend that he called the lawyer, and he told the lawyer to not file the documents to start the process for the marriage. He told the lawyer to hold off on filing the marriage application. So the friend is like, Submit, you're a jerk. He literally called him a jerk. He was like, you're being a jerk. And he's like, have you told Jenny this? And Submit's like, no. And the friend says, look, instead of talking to me, wasting your time with me, you need to talk to Jenny. And, and he's like, well, I'm really scared. She's going to be mad. And it's like, of course she's going to be mad. For 10 years, you've been stringing this woman along for whatever reason. You've been stringing her along. The whole time you've been talking about, oh, my parents. Now your parents are out of the way. So it's like if you don't marry her, you're gonna look like a liar. You're gonna look like a big fat liar if you don't marry this woman. Now that the biggest obstacle has been removed, there is nothing holding you back. Your astrologer said it's a go. The lawyer said it's a go. Your parents were like, "We don't want you to marry her, but we're not gonna stop you." What's going on, Submit? So let me tell y'all what I think is really happening. Submit never really cared for Jenny to begin with. I think he cares for her as a friend. I don't think he really has any romantic feelings for Jenny. I think that I don't know if he's using her for money. That's a big, big, big possibility. Or he just got in too deep. He's out there on the internet, I don't even know what the word is, hunting these women or trying to up there looking for a woman to take care of him, send him money or something. Whatever he was doing, and he never expected that when Jenny responded to his catfishing schemes, when he sent Jenny this picture of this model and said that to make it look like that was him, that she was going to bite and that it was going to go as far as it went. And I think that because he doesn't have the capability of breaking it off with her or telling her I'm just not interested, it just kind of went on and on and on, and it snowballed into this huge mess that he's in right now. I don't think that Submit was ever romantically attracted to Jenny, romantically interested in Jenny. I think that he was just going to use her for something, I don't know what, and she just kind of like leached onto him, and he couldn't shake her off, and he didn't have the guts to tell her that, hey, really wasn't what I was looking for, and now he's in this situation. I think he is going to end up marrying Jenny, because how is he going to get out of it? And they probably need to be on another franchise of 90 days, like 90 days the afterlife, or 90 days life after, whatever, life after the 90 days or something like that. So maybe they want to still be on this franchise, and so they're going to have to get married, because we will not go through this again next year. We will not go through Izzy not going to marry Jenny next year. We're not doing that. This is not going to be a Darcy thing where you're coming on year after year after year after year with the same story, the same. No, we're not doing that. So I think he's going to go ahead and do it just to probably continue being on the show. And I think they're going to have a very disastrous marriage. But yeah, that's my opinion. And that is my review. I think I covered everything. So please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And join me next time, and I will talk to you later.